Agent Tomasz.
Dr. Richard Durana is my guest today, the director of INESS, Slovakia. I'm pretty sure that there is not a huge crowd of Polish citizens who know what INESS is. Could you tell us something more about this project?
INESS is a private, non-governmental think tank which aims to change the policies in the country in order to make the society freer with less state interventions. And we are also doing many activities in order to broaden the awareness about the market principles, about the functioning of the market powers. And this is how we are trying to change the world to be the better place.
I saw your presentation on the first day. You had this opening presentation on Szósty Zjazd Austriacki in Krakow, and I was actually pretty impressed because I never heard about the INESS, but I think we should have something like that in Poland. And I was absolutely flabbergasted and mind blown when I saw you playing guitar with politicians. I mean, how do you reach those guys? And is there a lot of politicians who play guitars and drums and cajons, or is it only a typical Slovakian thing?
I think the thing is that Slovakia is way smaller state than Poland, so in a sense everyone knows everyone. And it's in such a small country and in such a city as Bratislava where everything is concentrated. Once you are a musician or you do the other things that you are interested in, you can find the people who have the common interests. So, for instance, I am an amateur musician. I've got a band. And there was a idea of creating a band of ambassadors who would play the charity events, etc. And I was the one who was asked to join the band. So actually I joined the so-called philanthropy band, and we were playing together with American ambassador, with Greek ambassador, Israeli ambassador, Serbian ambassador, Romanian ambassador, and others. So we were playing a kind of rock music, all evergreens, and playing together and making fun of these the charitable events.
Can you use music to promote liberty?
This is a tough question. I think the music should be used to promote the liberty. My music is not about the liberty as much as I would like it to be. Because the arts and music and paintings and the movies and also the novels, the literature is a great way how to outreach the broader audience. So, for instance, when there is another band that was formed afterwards, it is called the Business Leaders Band, and it is the band consisting of the successful entrepreneurs and also professional musicians. We were playing bigger concerts, and it happened as well that we have a few shows with the president of the country, Mr. Andrej Kiska.
Also, Jim Carrey is doing paintings to fight Trump in the United States, so he's also using art to promote his agenda.
Yes, there are some thinkers from our movement who are saying that actually libertarians are not that successful as they could be because we are losing a cultural war. Which means that, for instance, if you look at the Hollywood movies or some pop stars and the bands like Rage Against the Machine and others, so we see a strong leftist and socialist
this Rage Against the Machine is basically as far as you can get. Actually, they are pretty straightforward communists. They
yes, and this is what I am saying. Yes. So and you have very few, if any, bands who are kind of saying about the free markets and the benefits of free trade and free exchange and the stuff. So I think that one of the ways how we can make a comeback to the public discourses and public debate is through the culture.
If we talk about Rage Against the Machine or what? Or Michael Moore, right, basically. There is no counterpoint. There is no libertarian view, like a non-governmental solution. There are no non-governmental solutions promoted in pop culture.
Yes, this is exactly what I'm saying. That there is still a missing point, a gap that should be filled either with movies or with the music or other ways how to outreach especially the younger audience.
And how is that possible? That, for example, in America, where there is no Ministry of Culture, so there are no government grants. It's all basically privately funded market, pop music, Hollywood movies. How come they are so deeply into Bernie Sanders and Hillary? And
it is way easier to attack the emotions than the reason. And we Austrian economists and libertarians are mostly using the reasons to argue our ideas and our positions and our standing points. And leftists usually attack the emotional side of the thinking. So it's easier to talk about uncertainty. It's easy to talk about the fear. It's easy to talk about the bankruptcy and the tragedies than about how the market improves the everyday situation and everyday lives of all people.
Maybe we should start talking about the emotional side of things.
I absolutely agree. We must find the emotions in the things we are trying to communicate in order to outreach the broader audiences.
Because we have great thinkers, even on that event that we have met in Krakow. But actually, I think we have the moral argument, if one could say so, right? And if the socialists, democratic socialists, as they are being called right now, they talk about tragedies, they talk about poverty, the inequality. Actually, in my opinion, libertarians and liberals in general have much better arguments how to fight it. And there is something missing. We don't know how to sell those ideas.
Yes, and perhaps maybe we can try to find the positive examples of the either businesses or institutional organization, what are the fruits and the benefits of the free trade and free market and, let's say, less state interventions, and about the discovery of new technologies and the stuff. So maybe through the positive examples.
I was under great impression of your presentation about INESS, because that is exactly what your guys doing. This idea of how do you call it? The bill that you're sending to.
Yeah. It's the receipt for government services.
Exactly.
Yes, this is what we are trying to do. Actually, you can have the books on the one side, which is wonderful. It's always good to have these resources that when we are interested in something, so you can go into the depth. So you can read and you can get the full spectrum of arguments.
So you have numbers behind your argument.
Absolutely, but on the other, but then there is the other side. It is the communication of ideas towards the public, and it's very hard to tell someone I've got the argument, and if you want to understand it, read this, let's say, 500 pages book. It is
exactly.
It is very unlikely that the young person is going to read the book by someone who died, let's say, 50 years ago or hundreds of years ago or something, because this is a kind of what I say it is an analog approach in the digital era, which can very hardly work. So this is why we are trying to communicate our relatively complex ideas through the easy to understand ways, which means making stuff like this bill for government services, which is a very easy to understand way how to explain such complex topic as the public finance, for instance, because when we are talking about the taxes and about the services provided by the state, people don't understand how much they really pay for the services provided by state. And there are still plenty people in post-communist countries and maybe even in the Western countries which believe that there are still services which are free, let's say healthcare, education, roads, transportation and the stuff. But obviously they are not free, and in this bill everyone can see how much the average citizen of Slovakia pays for, let's say, healthcare, for primary education, secondary education, etc. And on our website, which is called The Price of the State, everyone can even get his own personalized bill for government services, which means that you enter your data, like how much you earn, how much you spend on alcohol, how much you spend on cigarettes, how much you spend on fuel, etc. And it calculates you your own personalized bill, which you can print, share, and whatever. And you can see how much you personally pay for, let's say, railway transportation, which eventually you may not use at all.
Do you have any feedback on those? Because it sounds like a great idea, but are people actually, ignited by this?
I would say pretty yes. Like every year, we print this bill for government services and we insert it to the major print newspaper in Slovakia prior to tax declaration, so people can get angry, and they usually do get angry. The good thing about this project is that it is kind of non-ideological, so it doesn't say you pay a lot or this could be cheaper or this could or we can spend more money of these. It is that you come up with your own conclusion, and usually the conclusion is on our side. Like people get angry, like, I didn't know I pay most of my taxes on pensions for the recent pensioners or current pensioners, or I paid that much for healthcare, or I paid that much for police or firemen or something. So usually this is the conclusion that people get. And what we also do with this project is that we are communicating heavily with the high schools and universities. So we prepare the kind of teaching kit for teachers, and we are sending it every year to all high schools in the country, together with the presentation that the teachers can instantly use at their lessons, so they can teach on public finance in very comprehensive way and convenient way that every student can understand. Everything on this website is, for instance, every state revenue and every state expenditure is calculated also per capita and also per working person, because working persons are these people who pay the taxes in the end. So with these tools, people can really get a clue how much the state costs, and what are the real expenses of the state and what are the real revenues of the state.
And as far as I remember, you're not a particular fan of libertarians involved in politics. You mentioned that, in your opinion, this is not a good option to use resources.
Well, not necessarily. I'm happy when libertarians enter the politics. This is just my personal position as an Austrian economist, that to me the politics is a kind of no-go. But I'm always happy when there are people who are libertarian and who enter the politics, because this is the way how you can change the things in reality. Like, they can pass the legislation, they can make the policy changes, they can help to improve the situation and to limit the scope of the state. So
you have someone you can vote.
Yes.
It's a good option as well.
Yes, because there are, as I also said in my presentations, I see several ways how you can change the world. Let's say you can do it through the politics, you can do it through the culture, you can do it through the think tanks, which is, for instance, my think tank. So this is what we are trying to do, to outreach the policymakers, decision makers, to provide them with the arguments and some reform proposals, and to consult their, let's say, election programs, and eventually to introduce some of our proposals into their election programs. And then there are other ways, like, for instance, creating the parallel structures to the state. There are nice examples, for instance, from Czech Republic and also from Slovakia. There is the organization called Parallel Police, and they are kind of trying to set up the kind of parallel organization which is not competing with the state. It is just out of the reach of the state. So these people are trading together, they are exchanging goods, exchanging services, they are paying only by cryptocurrencies, and they are kind of creating the parallel world which is out of the sight and out of the touch of the state.
That sounds great, actually.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I like it very much.
My last question would be about you personally. How did you enter this twilight zone of liberty?
I'm not the economist by education. I've got a major from organic chemistry and I've got a PhD from biochemistry. I used to work as a research scientist at the Slovak Academy of Sciences. I was developing vaccines myself. And it is because of the environment and the friends that I was surrounded with. This is my brother, who is economist. This is my other colleague Juraj, who is also economist, and we had long discussions for many years about these things, about the Austrian economics, about Ludwig von Mises, and other big thinkers of the movement. And this is why. When we felt that there is still a gap in the public discourse in Slovakia, there could be filled with these ideas and with these arguments. So we decided to quit our jobs. So I quit the job from the Academy of Sciences. My brother quit the job from the bank, and the other friend Juraj quit the job from the private equity group, and we set up the think tank. Just 3 of us in the beginning, 13 years ago. And now we have like 10 people working full-time on policy advocacy work and on the research and publishing the policy papers and doing plenty educational events for students, for high school students, university students, now even for politicians, and also writing books, publishing books, and many other initiatives that we think can contribute to the change we want to achieve.
I would like to wish you all the best, all the luck you can get, and I hope you will, I don't know, form another band with more influential politicians from Europe, and maybe that would help change the course of politics.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's super necessary to not only to do what the think tanks do, but also to explore new opportunities, how to communicate and how to articulate our ideas and our arguments. Thank you.
Agent Tomasz.